Major structures are falling right now. Like, this is a time of growth through cataclysmic change. Healing in the context and the way that I hold it is not only is the wound completely covered over, that the scar has gone away to the point that we're actually stronger and better for having lived it. An actual depth of knowing that's integrated and interwoven into the fabric of one's being that has changed how we perceive life and what choices we make and the lens that we see through from that point forward.
Amy.
Hey, Raj.
Welcome back. Oh, it's been a minute since we've been in the flesh. I'm so excited for this. It's been a long time coming. So much has shifted since we had you on the show back in had to have been 2022. Almost felt like a different lifetime.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm fascinated because now, we've been working together for almost, 3 years now. And I've gotten a chance to experience the deeper layers of the medicine you bring. And I'm wanting to create a frame and a context for this conversation around what it means to heal. What it means to awaken. What does it mean to unravel? Because I feel like you have a very unique lens on the journey of becoming and unbecoming that I don't hear many people reference. And so I'd love to start there, if we can create a context and a frame, and then allow the conversation to unfold.
I think that in order to describe what healing is, I almost want to start with what it isn't, because I feel like to talk about what it is it has so many depths and dimensions that it's almost impossible to describe with words. So what healing isn't is it isn't just understanding the problems of the past or the labels and pathologies that you could be named with, and then creating some incremental amount of shift around that. So it's not that. Healing in the context and the way that I hold it is, how do we make it so that not only is the wound completely covered over, that the scar has gone away to the point that we're actually stronger and better for having lived it, and feel nothing but expanse and blessing if it ever comes into our mind. So what I would say most people do is they'll still reference themselves like, oh, I'm an adult child of an alcoholic, or I dealt with, whatever. And there's still a reference point to the trauma or the prior labels, because they're still relabeling themselves with those things. And I would say when you know that you're healed is when you've pretty much completely forgotten that any of that happens. And that when you bring yourself back to the remembrance that it did because of some, story about what happened in your 20s or whatever it is, that you actually have a feeling of expansiveness and warmth. And you can reference a vast understanding and a wisdom, not just a topical one, like, oh, everything teaches us something, tee-hee, and then move on, right? But an actual depth of knowing that's integrated and interwoven into the fabric of one's being that has changed how we perceive life and what choices we make and the lens that we see through from that point forward.
Yeah, it almost feels like the word heal doesn't really capture the depth of what's happening when we put our awareness on energetic imprints, bound energy imprints, psychological traumas, core emotional betrayal, whatever we want to call it. Like it's like to heal those, it doesn't fully capture even what you're sharing. The word heal doesn't capture. Is there a different word? Because I almost feel like, is it transform? Is it transcend? Is it
Alchemize?
That's what I was going to say. Like, because there's almost like this thing happened to you. There's this life that you experienced. There's these circumstances that were brought forward, and you collected a certain set of, let's say, whatever, imprints, cuts, wounds. But then on the other side, you're actually like a just a better version of it. You're almost like an evolved version of yourself.
Oh yeah.
Like you transcend the identity. Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, totally. It brings a different understanding to the word karma. It brings another understanding to, I think part of the problem with the word heal is that it comes from the mind. Like the mind is trying to assess, almost like there's a benchmark. There's a beginning, there's a middle, and then there's an end. And the way that learning really happens through lifetime and through lifetimes, when we reference more from the karmic point of view, is that the lesson is actually becomes more multifaceted. So let's say that someone is betrayed and then they heal up from that betrayal. Maybe that's like a level 1, or like they feel slightly less painful around that. But then in the later life, they can actually see and witness up close, maybe their best friend does that same thing to someone else, and they see it through their eyes. So there's more facets to the learning that come over time that can't be understood inside of the black and white of right and wrong, or this was good and this was bad as an experience. And it can't be understood in terms of a completion point, because nothing is really complete. We are energetic beings. We are timeless souls on an endless journey. And that lesson is continuing to ripple out throughout our entire being, throughout all of the rest of our incarnations. And if we're really, I'll say, playing this game in the ultimate way that we can, we're also bringing the wisdom of all of those prior incarnations, rather than suppressing or pretending that we don't have access to wisdom. And so then it becomes much more of a breathing ecosystem. I think that in general, people start to talk about or describe or navigate the process of healing or transformation or alchemy or development in these ways in very reductionistic models, which is really common because we've been indoctrinated into reductionism. And we don't see the ways that we're being reductionistic and separatists, right? Like, oh, that's them and this is me. And, all of that can get baked into these smaller perspectives. But when we recognize we actually live inside of one aspect of the all, and when we are one aspect of the all experiencing itself, and we can then also see, that's too vague though, right? Most people are like, what does that even mean? And how do I practically apply it to my business life or raising kids or whatever we're up to? But when we can see that we have this breathing way of understanding this very real and aliveness, pulse of energy and information and knowledge and wisdom that is constantly ebbing and flowing through our awareness, but is always there in reality.
yeah, it's a journey of remembering, right? And I think that's it. It's there's this breathing, call it a blueprint of you that sits beneath all of the constructs. And in many ways, all of the healing, liberation, alchemy is a journey into remembering, but then, and it doesn't need to be fully applied into your life yet. It's there's almost I find that with the work, it's you have the breakthrough, and the integration isn't immediate. It's not like you see the thing change in your life radically. It could, but I find it it's like you said, there's an evolving, breathing nature of life that just okay, you shifted something within you, and now there's a pulse that gets sent out, and that pulse is slightly different. And then that then reorchestrates the field to then there's a shift in business, or there's a shift here.
Totally.
There's that's how I'm visualizing the way you're describing this is oh, I had this big breakthrough, and it's a big pulse that goes out, and then you come back and just pulsing, and it's just finding that rhythm.
Well, and understanding that we are basically interacting with our environment, and that there's so much that's going on inside of ourselves. I think that a lot of my frame is that I've been working in the clairvoyant space. I've been working with clients clairvoyantly for 23 years. And so I've watched people will come to me and they're like, oh no, I'm healed up on that. I'm good on that. I already did a bunch of work. I feel good. And I'm like, your throat chakra is closed down. There's a suppression in your heart. and the undulations, the pulsations of your human energy field as they go out around you and as you interconnect and interface with the all that is are limited when you tune into that. So, I honor that the person might feel that way, but it's just not what's
What do
true.
they come in with? Like, is it like, because like, it's so beautiful. Like I would have said the same thing like 3 years ago. I was doing all this inner work, right? And I was like, I'm good. I'm great. And now in hindsight, I can look back and be like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
There was so much I was blind to.
Right.
And so how can people maybe like, how do you teach, guide, or maybe even allow or create like an awareness point for people to be able to see the truth and touch the truth and not be confronted by the truth, because I feel like there's like, in order to really dive in, like there's a depth of safety that's needed and a depth of honesty with self. And that's something I ask a lot. It's like, how do you inspire that in people? Like somebody comes to you, they're like, I'm fine. But then you're seeing like the whole menu of reasons they're not, like, it's like, what's the interaction at that point? And how do you guide them into deeper states of safety so that they can remember or see?
I mean, I think that if I'm working one-on-one, they have to know that I really respect and honor that that's 100% their truth and that I know that they're telling me the truth, right? Like if I can see that in their field, I know when people are lying consciously, most people are lying subconsciously, right? They're in denial to themselves and therefore to me or to the rest of the world.
Denial.
Yeah. But if I know that that's what I'm working with is that they're really being as honest as they can with me, I will make sure to validate that. And then I'll invite them into can you please play along with me? Can we step into a conversation in which, because I feel and I sense.
Why do you think people are in denial?
They don't believe that they have the capacity to handle or they didn't at the time that the thing got initiated.
Wow.
So I like to talk about it in terms of existential pain. So there's the pain of the past, maybe that they haven't been able to resolve. And that begins to get really heavy, like, bags that we're carrying over our shoulders. And, if you carry enough bags, it's hard to see correctly out into the future because you're hunched over. And so people tend to extrapolate their past into their future in that way. And it gets really heavy and burdensome and they expect the same. But even in the present moment, they can live in such a state of denial about that they have that going on. And I think that it can be extremely difficult to sit into that present moment, having that. And then also the existential pain of what it is that's going on in the world, right? Like what it is that's going on, there are wars, there are famines, there are whatever, there's, major structures are falling right now. Like this is a time of growth through cataclysmic change.
Yeah.
And so it can be very difficult when we feel like that we're barely hanging on with all of our responsibilities or the things that we feel like we have to hold up in the world, to sit inside of emotion. And we're not given real tool for it, because I feel like that most of what's out there is working with emotion as a mental construct and not as an energetic construct.
Can you speak to that? Like, can you break that out? Like, what does working with emotion as a mental construct versus an energetic construct look like in practice?
Yeah, I mean, if you're inside of the mental construct, you can either amplify your problems because you're fixated on your own pathology, maybe an effort to get better. I'm going to heal myself by telling myself how broken I am and analyzing it, or by denial, or all the other kinds of tricks and illusions. I'm not good enough. That's a really classic one, all of those kind of things. But if we look at it from the point of view of energetics, if we look at it from the point of view of like the truth with a capital T, I'm a timeless soul on an endless journey, right? So there is a process that I basically guide people through, and it is a process of remembrance and being able to hold more without going into denial. And I would say the first and most foundational step in all of this is safety. Okay, so that's another tricky word, because safety, if we bring it around into our intellect, we're like, what? I'm sitting right now on a safe, but our body may not feel safe. So being able to work with ourselves as mammals, I really, I love bringing people through a process where in the first step, we actually focus on the tailbone and the tailbone as a method and a mechanism to get ourselves into a biological state of safety very, very rapidly. And some of it just comes from remembering that we're mammals. And if we think about what's happening with a dog, we can tell if they've been traumatized or if they're scared in general or if they're happy by the shape and the way that they're holding or moving their tail.
Can you guide that right now for anybody who's watching? Like,
Yeah.
what would that look like to access the safety through the tailbone?
Yeah. So if in most cases, if we're not safe, our tailbone's actually tucked forward. Sometimes people shove theirs back, but that's a different picture. But either way, what we want to do is allow for our awareness. If it's safe to do so, we can all just close our eyes, allow for your awareness to come to your tailbone. And so for some, it might be easier to first find the lower back, the spine. And then beneath that, there's a triangle shaped bone called the sacrum that's flat. And then beneath that is about a 1-inch segment. That's the tailbone. And if we just bring our awareness there, it actually is already changing us. But let's get playful and let's explore this area. And I'd like for you to either see, feel, or imagine a sense of color or warmth, or just perceive a subtle relaxation. You might want to, kind of shift your hips a little bit. You might want to make a micro adjustment wherein the muscles around the tailbone relax a little bit. And for most people, just this process alone will start to change the rhythm and the cadence of the breath. It will allow for someone to find a deeper sense of peace and a settling into the present moment. It actually creates it recalibrates the human energy field. So again, energy is very, very real. It's different than maybe something that you can touch with your hand, like a sofa or a blanket or your shirt or something like that. But it is still very much a material that we work with. It's something that is very palpable. So the human energy field, when we are in a place of unsafety or tension, it's like imagine a cloud getting tighter. So like our energy field gets tighter together and we can feel it. Our muscles get tight, our breath gets short. We start to think worried thoughts and we can ruminate and things like that. So when we allow for the tailbone to relax back out, what we're doing is we're actually allowing for this. It's powerful. This feeling, the experience of, and the actuality of our energetic field opening. Mm-hmm. So imagining that we stand inside of or sit inside of a vertical pipe, that pipe's diameter actually opens. And that all happens with the tailbone. And we are allowed to come into a softness of the mind and a shift. It may not fix everything, but it's a great first step.
Well, it's just awareness that safety is the thing to optimize for. Mm-hmm. Like I think as you're speaking, I'm thinking about like a child. Like when a child's running around and feels safe, there's just such a big auric field.
That's right.
The energy field is massive. Everybody sees the child. They're looking at the child. They think the child's adorable. It's like there's a light that children embody. And I think it's that auric field, and it hasn't been tarnished or tainted or pushed in. And we as mammals or human beings who live inside of a conditioned world that isn't necessarily optimized for safety.
That's right.
Like, yeah, like we're carrying all these little imprints, and we're constantly tracking and seeing what's possible and what's not. And I think that was what was, I remember when we first started working together, it was so powerful because you helped me even just remember that no matter where I am, I can come back to myself.
That's right.
It's like the safety isn't something that's experienced with another person. It's first experienced with yourself.
It has to be.
And that feeling of safety, when you start to cultivate it within yourself, then you start to notice the frequency in others.
That's
and
right.
Where there's safety and where there's not. And then you learn how to communicate. But if you don't know it to be so here, it's like you're actually just a fish swimming in a dirty fishbowl without realizing it until you get that taste and that imprint. And so, yeah, I just remembered when we started working, it was just so valuable to come back into like me, just creating more moments like that, just more exhales.
Yeah, definitely. I just remember that was one of the early things that you said in us working together is you feel like that I took you out of your dirty fishbowl and plunked you down in a fresh one and you were getting used to it. So it's a fun thing to remember back into. But I love what you said, because that's exactly it, is that the tailbone and the safety is bringing back to self. So I love to work inside of holographic understandings or the ways that nature works, and really understanding the interconnectedness, not from an intellectual or philosophical standpoint, but living it, right? So when we return to our sense of safety, we are ourselves. The reason why the toddler is so glowing and joyful and all of that is because they're just being themselves. They don't have a choice but to be themselves at that age. And hopefully that self is being held in a really safe and beautiful, nurturing environment, and then they will glow and shine. So we all have that inside of us. We all have that beautiful, youthful, glowing fountain of youth within, and it's a never-ending place and space that can continue to expand. Is
I think
safety.
if you even break down like the beginning of this conversation, what does it mean to heal, or what does it mean to grow, or what does it mean to transform? Like, it's to come back to greater and greater depths of safety. Because in that safety, there's nothing to be but yourself. There's no one to impress because you're already a child of God.
Yeah.
And in that expansion of safety, in order to do that, you must expand the mental constructs and the perspectives and the frames, the paradigms
Totally.
within which. So it's like, and that's something actually you do really well. Like, you've really, like, I've noticed, like, it's like you don't necessarily like shift a belief, you just change the paradigm. Can you talk about that? Because I actually like, I meet very few people who consistently are able to, like, here's a construct I'm swimming in, and then all of a sudden, instead of just meeting me in that construct, you just pull me into a different paradigm that actually dissolves the construct altogether.
Yeah. A lot of the times people will be very zoomed in on a specific worry or a very specific topic in their life, like the specific interaction that they had with this person and a feeling of disconnect with that, and they're not necessarily able to understand how it's the same as, or how, what the bigger learning and lesson is. So a lot of the times it's just being able to do the zoom out. And in that, we want to be sure not to discount or disregard. Again, you're having a human experience in that moment, or I could be if I'm having a moment like that. We're having a human experience, and we don't want to put a coat of happy over it. You know, the denial, like there's a lot of stuff that's out there that's also like, let's just be only happy thinking.
Well, let me bring a more tangible example from my own life, like
Do
just
it.
from something that, like, I think it was like there was this concept of being abandoned for me, like a fear of being abandoned by, you know, investors or old business partners, whatever, like some construct. I was like afraid of being abandoned, and that was an echo of a deeper core wound that I'd been carrying in my karmic field from my father, or, you know, I've just had that feeling, right? And I just remembered us, like, we were there, and then all of a sudden, like, the paradigm shifted to where, Raj, what would need to exist for the paradigm of abandonment to just not be?
Yeah.
Like, what if that word just didn't exist in your vocabulary? What if there was just it's like there, it wasn't even processing. That's like the thing. It's like, it's not, I think there's this like sort of obsession inside of the world of doing the work that's like processing. But like the energetic work, it's like, it's not actually processing. You're just, you're shifting. So it's more
Yeah.
quantum. There's like
It's so quantum.
so there's a quantum shift that I've observed in my own process that is happening, and I'm curious how, like, how are you doing? Like, what's your internal working space to be able to do that and spot that? Because I think if that skill could be embodied, trained, my goodness, like how much suffering could we just alleviate
Yeah.
for people it feels really, because I see that as something you so masterfully wield, and you've done it over and over again at this point. So I'm like, there's a process that you're following,
Yeah.
and I don't know if you even know that, but I see it.
You see it, and it's helpful. The reflection back is helpful because what I do is I just get really, really present. And I'm fascinated by what your words are and your experience. And I'm feeling as much as I am able to feel and perceive of you and with you in that. And yet I am very, very carefully, like a dog on a trail, smelling. I'm finding the exit point. I'm finding, because I don't want to process it. I'll let you talk, or I'll let a client or someone talk long enough for me to get coordinates and be able to see the map. And then I'm going to basically invert the entire reality and pop to a different one.
Okay, you just said something so profound. So the coordinates. What do you mean?
What I've decided in advance, anytime I'm going to help somebody, is they're going to tell me exactly what they need, even though they have no idea what that is. And then I'm going to watch them lay out the map. And if they're not headed in the right direction, I know it in my body because I can feel that they're talking about the wrong thing, and I'll change the subject or I'll point them in the right direction. Because I have no desire to sit and hear people just like whine or go on, because essentially it's reinforcing all of the same stuff they're trying to get out of. So I help them to know how to give me the picture, but I'm listening. There'll be a whisper in my ear. It's about trust, or in this case, it's more, how do you commune with God in such a way that you stop caring what anybody else thinks? Because abandonment in this stage of your life exists only if you believe that you can be rejected rather than you believe that you can walk the path with God closer. Right? So I hear all of that coming through.
So it seems like there's like a library or a bank of universal constructs and paradigms that are paired with specific instances, word choices, belief systems, woundings, that then inside of, okay, that's super fascinating. So it is like, there's like all these, so there's a map. The map is pretty simple though. Like, it's like, once you identify the thing, stop processing and just flip the paradigm to where the thing doesn't even exist. And there's a flip. It's like rejection being redirection. That's one version of a flip.
Right.
Rejection by humans, but cannot be rejected by God, is another flip.
Right.
So it's like just these, like, so there's these dynamic flips that can happen.
Yeah.
And you've seen enough of them now over the years of working with people to be able to actually tune and select which flip is going to be most effective. That's really cool.
Yeah, and it kind of is effectively like this. Like, I could give a shit about your problems, and I love you deeply. And I love you so deeply, I'm not going to be confused by what you believe to be your problems. And I will not allow for the paradigm of pain to continue so long as we're working together. And so it's not just like, oh, let's just change this thoughts construct. Because you can, again, it could be painting a coat of happy. Like abandonment is actually, but what ends up happening is a full energetic shift.
Well, what's so cool, Amy, is I feel like, I look at myself in my life now, and I feel myself holding that standard for me, which is really the beautiful piece. And I think that's the piece that I get excited about, because once it's like your transmission teaches my system how to do it.
That's right.
Right. And so like we actually already have these answers. Like we all are our own greatest healers, right? We need each other to open the door, unlock it, to see. But once you give me that insight's mine.
Yes.
And now it sits on my journal and I can read it every day. And anytime there's a moment where I feel stretched or thin, or when there's an echo of a test, like abandonment or rejection, I can come back to that thing I learned, and it becomes the anchor and the principle. And so maybe this journey of healing or awakening is really just about anchoring as many of those as possible into like a personal manifesto that you carry with you through your life. And that becomes then like the evolutionary carving, like it's like you're I don't know what the right word is, but it's like I'm seeing the brilliance of choosing to see the work through the lens you do versus the traditional lens of trauma therapy or the traditional lens of even like lots of plant medicine and coaching. It's like it's a different paradigm
Yeah, totally.
of remembering the creator within you and remembering all the things that you already know.
Yeah. And once the remembrance becomes so deep and integrated that it's automatic, you don't even need to have it written in your journal or to remind yourself of it. It doesn't exist anymore to go back to
Yeah.
where we were before. So we only have to have it in our conscious awareness until we're masters. And once we're a master of that thing, we may not ever have to address it again. Or if it is, it comes in a whisper. And then we kind of laugh at ourselves and we can slide out of that whole paradigm with ease, right? And you're
Yeah.
seeing that. I know you're experiencing that now. It's like, oh, wait a minute. You can catch yourself inside of a misperception, a false perception of reality, and slide out of it with ease. And it comes with that sense of safety for sure, as a bench, a baseline.
What are
And
let's talk about that. Like, so what are the foundational ingredients for lasting transformation?
yeah, I'd say if I were to distill out what I say again and again and again to be able to help people get free and with ease and rapidity, like, so it's so fast and so foundational, like the way we were talking about, it always has to anchor inside of safety and coming back to self and remembering that you're a timeless soul on an endless journey. Like that's an immediate zoom out because we're often living life with like the paper or the glass pressed up against our noses. So that like, oh, wait a minute, there's something bigger going on. I'm something bigger. Hold on, I'm going to come into safety. So that's the first step, is to come into self. The second one is to come into an embodied experience of being part of the interconnected all that is. And so as an energy practice, what that looks like is the breath through the skin, right?
Yeah, I remember that one.
So do you want to play with that for a minute?
Yeah, sure. Let's play
Okay.
for that for a minute.
All right. So we'll go back to the tailbone space because that's a lovely thing as well. We have that sense of self and safety. We have our tailbones soft, relaxed, and spacious. And then we're going to see, feel, or imagine that we could tune into or be aware of the trillions of pores of skin that we have, covering our entire body. And again, this is in order to be able to heal with profound clarity, grace, wisdom, speed, we have to be willing to be playful. So we're going to pretend that we can inhale through all of the pores of our skin simultaneously with gentle breaths. Just the inhales, very gently. Good. And the exhales are happening either through the nose, or we're not tracking them at all. It's only the inhales through the skin. And what happens for most of us within just a few breaths or maybe a few more is we begin to feel a softening in our peripheral awareness of where we believe we begin and end starts to shift. We create a permeability inside of our energy field, that light body that is surrounding us, that actually connects us to the all that is, the anatomy of the all that is. We allow for that to become more permeable, to have it feel replenished, for the mycelial connections of that layer of our light body to become reconnected. But we're doing it with something that's very practical and tangible in so many ways, because for many people, they can either see or feel or imagine the breath moving through the skin. And that's the way we want to work with it. We don't want to try to work with it out in the energy layer. It becomes very confusing and can kind of backfire. So once we are allowing for our energy body to work correctly, it's like allowing for our liver to work correctly, right? Or our heart to work correctly. I'm a doctor of Chinese medicine, so qi and energy are quite real from that perspective. But I am describing and instructing a technique that changes how people's auric fields, that emanation and that rippling that you were describing, is happening in real time. And there's no faking that. we can be thinking thoughts of, oh yeah, I'm part of the all that is, or the divine or God has me, and I'm willing to receive. And it's like, I can basically call bullshit on it or not, based on how someone's field is working. Right? It doesn't lie. Energy is real. They are units. They move. They circulate. And so what we want to do is make sure that we are actually connected to that field of energy, to the all that is, in the way that we are working with our energy field. Now, ultimately, we can't disconnect. It's not possible, but we can drive our energy equipment or our being into the ground, pretending, in the martyr complex, in the chicken with their head cut off persona archetype, all the different things that we might do, or where we try to be the hero. That's another one. Often the hero complex is pulling in this connection, and they're able to help. We can help, we can serve, we can do things that are powerful and good in the world. But if we're doing it inside of the little me, the I, me, mine, it's very limited by comparison to when we then connect out in remembrance and live inside of that embodied experience of oneness.
Yeah. Yeah. This is so good. This is like, and I love that we're coming back to the foundations, because I think that most people aren't aware of the architecture necessary to hold transformation.
That's right.
Like what container, what construct is necessary. Like this is why when you go into a plant medicine journey, you can get blown out. But if you don't have safety, if you don't feel the interconnectedness, what else would be another construct that's like really important to like land lasting transformation?
The yes. Right? Like, I mean, I think a lot of people want plant medicine to rescue them, or there's a lot of damsels in distress hoping that they can be inside of like outsourcing their power, or there's a lot of different ways and archetypes that we can get into with this. But ultimately, it is the will. So it is, although what I'm speaking of is being inside of the knowing of that timeless soul and an endless journey and the soft focus, it's the combination of that layer of reality being totally true and lived in every moment with the fuck yes, I want this.
Yeah.
I choose transformation. I choose to see the truth with a capital T, because I know that that's where my freedom is. I'm going to choose to be in my badassery about all of this. I'm going to choose, even when I am wanting or even acting out the part of victim, to know that I am not that, and that I will not be stuck here, even if I need to have a big victim meltdown tantrum thing right now, So the yes is one of the most powerful. Like it is foundational.
Yeah. Yeah. Why do you care so much about this?
Such a good question. I don't know how not to. I have a feeling if I'm not in this, I feel dead, depressed, uninspired. I mean, it is like, it's a terrible reality. In my prior years, I've been on this journey consciously for 32 years. In my early years, if I wasn't in this deep enough, I was not okay. Right. And even if I'm a little bit off course right now, I'm not okay. But what is it that I care about it for other folks? It's like, I just want their freedom. Like I know that we all have the capacity for freedom at a massive scale. And that ultimately that's what we each need as individuals. And that within kind of the hologram of the collective that we deserve, we must have that sense of freedom and that capacity to be able to hold more without going into the shutdown, without going into the denial, because it's time for us to collectively wake up and work together. So there's a collective experience, but also when I'm with another, I am such in a deep place of love, even though the way that, and no matter what, I'm always moving from love, but sometimes it's like, nope, I don't want to talk about that. I'll redirect the conversation, but it's all inside of a quest of just love. Me in my love, wanting to be able to help the other person to experience more of that in their life, more freedom.
I think that's another ingredient that I would add into the pot of what's necessary for foundational change. It's love and care.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about care, like, and that maybe that's part of the yes. Like Like when the yes I heard like a yes to me,
Yeah.
but there's also just like a care for others. Like I'm here devoting myself to this work because I want to be a loving a loving, parent, a loving partner. I want to hold more for this. Like there's a why that I feel each of us are tapped into, and moments of pain are such brilliant opportunities to come into deep resonance with that and to use that as fuel
Yeah.
for betterment. And in many ways, like the yes can be reinforced by care and vice versa. And then when we surround ourselves with the right support systems, like it actually, transformation becomes one of the greatest gifts. Like there's actually nothing to fear because you're coming into more love.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful paradox to be afraid of transformation, because to transform is to arrive into more safety, which then requires the need for less fear.
Right. And nothing that is true can be lost. So if it's a true relationship, and then you can speak inside of your truth, even if it's not correct in that moment, it's just your perception. It's your pain speaking. If it's a real relationship, it can hold it, and it will become deeper and better for it. Anything that wants to be cleared between those two people can be cleared, and anything that person wants to be able to be just held space for and with can be cleared. But I think that it's maybe a perception or a shift that rather than just listening to our loved ones or our friends kind of go on and on about the thing, that we're helping them with that. Where is that pivot? And we don't have to know the answer. Often it just comes from the quality of the listening. Like if you're in a tough spot and I'm listening, I'm with you, but I'm not jumping in with you, right? I'm not going to come. My work is not to come down to where you're at and to commiserate with you. My work is to be able to lift you up.
Oh, can you break that down? Because I think that that's a big one for most people, especially as we begin to transform and we go back into environments with people who haven't made that choice to grow with. Like, how do you maintain that structure, even in the presence of people who might be, triggering your deepest wounds, whether it's your parents or your spouse or your kids, or like, how do you maintain? I think this is the piece I get really interested in, because it's state change is one thing, but trait change and true embodiment.
Oh yeah.
Like, so how do you instruct just what you said? Because I thought it was really beautiful. Like, I'm not going to come down to where you are. I'm going to hold a frequency that allows you to oscillate here. What does that actually look like in practice? If you were walking into a room, or if you were like, what is, yeah.
I think it's kind of two separate questions. One is how do you navigate it when you're triggered? So like being around family that might be triggering, right? It's not necessarily that you have something really profound to offer them in that moment. It might just be that you're not getting re-engaged into the triggered patterns where then you shut down or you act out or, whatever those things are, right? So how do you accomplish that? It's going to be coming back to self, tailbone, timeless soul and an endless journey. Be curious and interested without shutting down, and staying out of the duality. I'm not right and they're wrong, nor are they right and I am wrong. Just be inside of that safety and then come into that breath. The beauty about the tailbone and the breath is nobody has to know you're doing it, and you can string seconds at a time together. So it is not just state change, but create change in that regard, because you can state change as many times, as many frames as you want to. Let's say there's 100 frames per second of what your energy is doing. You can change it. You can, as long as you keep the flicker in that direction, energetically, the signal is complete. Just like a light bulb might be flickering, but you can't see it with the naked eye. So you're guiding in that way. And as you're guiding in that way, you're allowing for different perceptions and possibilities. So that's the first one. The second one is let's say you're holding space for a friend. It's going to be actually much the same thing, but there's some maybe additional kind of pointers that I could offer. One is no matter no matter how triggered they get, the more triggered that they get, the more grounded as fuck you get. The more that you're like, we're going to just watch this change. This is all a moment in time. And you can still say the words like, I'm so sorry that that happened, and mean it. But you're anchored inside of this place of like, out of my love and devotion to you, I am not going to buckle into this paradigm of failure or, you know, whatever, go into the whole trauma personally. And that's a lot of how I was able to guide myself through in working with clients. Because sometimes people are unleashing, I mean, stories that are so traumatic. They could set records. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know how to put that. That's not the right wording, but it can be so incredible what humans have walked through. And no matter how much that I love that person, I stay inside of the grounded, centered awe of that actually, for some reason, needed to happen. And I'm going to stay clear inside of this space while also having my heart feel very connected until I can find the coordinates and I can see. And it might just be a word, and then bringing them to that word, the word trust. Right. And remembering that it's not up to just us, where it's a co-creative environment. Right. So if you can offer one word, or you can offer your presence in a certain way, often they'll find the way. Right. I don't have to know what to say. If I can guide with my energy in a certain way, I'm watching them just come straight back up and out of wherever they were. And that's actually a really important, and we've spoken about that, where that's what you were just saying earlier. It's like if the process becomes internalized at that point and you owned that process. We worked collaboratively with energetic field to get it to happen. But if you can navigate your way back home again and again, and then it's yours, that process is much more for you.
It's so empowering. I love the way that you see possibility, because I'm inspired by it, and I'm so excited that you're here sharing this for others, because I think that we get so stuck in the noise of processing, of the noise of like just swimming.
Yeah.
And going to the same thing over and over again, thinking that, oh, I just need more of the medicine or more of the thing to get the break. But it's not about more. It's about the right paradigm.
Yeah.
And if you start to look at life through an energetic lens, and you start to look at yourself through an energetic lens, it shifts the entire conversation. Like, even tracking for me at this point, like I just like track everything through the lens of energy. And that's become a way of being. And it's actually leading me to make different choices, like very bold choices, like removing people from my life that would then require me to assume an enormous responsibility.
Right.
Like those are big energetic decisions.
Yeah.
But it's like when you start to see that, like, we're infinite souls on an endless timeline, it becomes so much easier. So, Amy, I'm just like, I love you. I adore you. I'm so grateful for like the impact you've made on my life and the way you've taught me to become an energetic being, like to remember that I'm an energetic being, because it's shifted the quality of my relationships, my life, my ability to rise above pathology of not enoughness, or there's something wrong with me, or any story. It's like even now when that's happening, I just drop into the energetic layer and I remember the truths, the principles, the insights, and I pull myself out of it. And I'm so grateful. So yeah, I'm just over the moon that you are in my life. I feel super lucky that I've had a chance to just be supported by you. And I would love for you to share more about just like what's here in your life. If someone listening and they wanted to like come in and be a part of your world, like how would that happen? Just fill the listeners in.
Oh yeah. Well, first off, to go back to what you said, thank you for letting me in. Right. I can only work my magic to the level that somebody allows it. And so thank you for being willing to, let's say, die and be reborn 1,000 times. You're a magnificent transformational being. And you really live it and embody it so deeply. And so it's been just an amazing adventure and so much fun to be a part of your life for the last few years in this really powerful way. So thank you for that. I sometimes describe it that I'm an artist that gets to only like I have canvases inside of that are people. And so thank you for helping me to express myself as well. Yeah. So if people want to work with me, I do, for the first time in a while now, I have a little bit of space in my one-on-one practice. And so that's available. That can look like calls and Zooms and in-persons and transmissions of consciousness via words and just silent transmissions of consciousness. I also do a lot of work in an intensive format with some really incredible brain work with Dr. Drew Pearson. We have a business called Holon. And so in the course of a Thursday to a Monday, we get really, really radical EEG-verified neurological change that is hardwiring people for consciousness and wisdom and often intuitive gifts and things like that, all at the same time. And then I often have other programs and classes available. Easiest way to get a hold of me is just to send in an application, and you don't even have to know what you're applying for. Just go to the website and fill something out.
What's the website?
holonexperience.com.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll make all those links available in the show notes. Amy, I got one last question for you.
What's that?
In the midst of everything you're doing, everywhere you've been and everywhere you're going, how do you stay grounded? And I'm even more curious in what's the practice that you're about to speak to that has compounded and allowed you to just create a more grounded state of being?
It's funny because I feel like that's what we've been talking about the whole way through. And I know it's your question, so I feel like I should find another level. I think the biggest thing inside of all of it is timeless soul on an endless journey. And I am not a muggle. I am not an ordinary being. I'm going to choose to be inside of my majesty and the fullness of my power, and to resource from places that I don't know, to be able to ground into my life and the lives of others around me the most potent miracles that I could even, far more potent than I could ever even possibly imagine at the level of the mind. And I know that doesn't sound particularly grounding, but I feel like that's something about standing inside of the full force of power and potent space of miracles is actually the most grounding thing ever, because it reminds me of the truth of who I am and who we all are and what we're really doing here.
Fuck yeah. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. It's so great because like, that's it, right? Like becoming grounded is just remembering.
Yeah.
It's remembering and having that so embodied that it becomes just the way you breathe, the way you see the world, your identity. And I think that to me is what I'm most passionate about, inspiring people to access for themselves. So thank you again for being here and for sharing your light and your magic. And it's so fun.
So fun. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye. Everybody, that's a wrap for this week's episode of Stay Grounded. I'm your host, Raj, and this is your old friend, Amy. And from us, stay grounded. See you soon. Thanks for tuning into this week's episode of Stay Grounded. No matter where you're from or what you're going through, I hope it helps you remember just how incredible you are and have always been. If you're on a path of emotional healing or self-discovery and would like to learn how Liberate can support your journey, head to www.rajana.com/liberate. That is LIBER8 to learn more about our current group programs and one-on-one offerings. I love you guys, and I'll see you next week.